Hello, and welcome to the Nervous System Part 1. Today, in this video, we are going to be talking about the functions, neurons, and the various systems inside the nervous system. The first function is sensory input. This is any electrical impulse that is sent from the sensory organs, such as the eyes and the ears, to the brain and spinal cord. So, the brain and spinal cord are the parts of the central nervous system. And throughout the video, I will be abbreviating the central nervous system as CNS. The second function is integration. This is when the CNS processes all the information that is obtained by the sensory organs. And the third function is motor output. This is when the CNS gives these messages to the effectors, which are muscles or glands that generate voluntary or involuntary movement respectively. And this allows a muscle or gland response to be produced. So, voluntary means an action that you have control over, such as running, walking, things that you may do at your own will. However, involuntary movement is something that you have no control over, such as digestion, heart rate, heart beating, breathing. These things we don't have control over. Next, we're going to be talking about an example. This example is when you touch a hot pan and move your hand. Sensory input in this example would be when pain receptors in the skin send messages to the brain, signaling the presence of heat. Integration would be when the brain processes the information obtained by the skin receptors. And motor output would be when you quickly move your hand away from the pan in response to the presence of heat. And this would be voluntary because this is a muscle response. Next, we're going to be talking about neurons. Neurons are also nerve cells, are the fundamental units of the nervous system, and they help to conduct electrical impulses throughout the body in response to stimuli. Stimuli are changes in your environment that produce a response. And there are two types of neurons that we are going to be discussing: sensory neurons and motor neurons. Sensory neurons conduct electrical impulses from the body to the brain and spinal cord. So, from the body to the CNS is sensory neurons. And these conduct. And motor neurons receive the electrical impulses from the brain and spinal cord to the body. So, CNS to body. Sensory neurons, body to CNS. Motor neurons, CNS to body. Next, we're going to be talking about nerves. Nerves are groups of neuronal fibers which help carry various electrical impulses. And I have a freehand drawing of a nerve here. In this video, we're only going to be discussing the parts, but in a next video, we will be discussing the functions of those parts. So the first part we have are dendrites, which are the little spiky things on the end. Then we have the cell body, which is covering or providing a shield for the nucleus. And the white part in the center is known as the myelin sheath. And the green spikes at the end are known as the axon terminals. So next we're going to be talking about the central nervous system, CNS, and the peripheral nervous system, which is the PNS. First, the CNS, which is, as we talked about earlier, comprised of the brain and spinal cord. And these individual parts are further composed of gray matter and white matter. Gray matter is unmyelinated nerve tissue, while white matter is myelinated nerve tissue. And myelinated nerve tissue is made up of nerve cells, or neuroglial cells, which when you basically transcribe means nerve glue. Next, we're going to be talking about the PNS. This is the peripheral nervous system. And in this system is made up of all the nerves branching off the spinal cord. And that includes cranial and spinal nerves. There are 12 cranial and 31 spinal nerves. And this can be divided further into the autonomic and somatic nervous system, the ANS and the SNS. First, we're going to be talking about the autonomic nervous system. This system has control over the involuntary body functions, and it can be divided further into the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, which we will discuss in a later video. So, this system includes smooth muscles and cardiac muscles, which are the two involuntary body muscles. Smooth muscles are found in your stomach lining, which help to promote digestion and basically carries out those digestive functions in the body. While cardiac muscle is in the heart and controls heartbeat and those other involuntary functions. Next, we're going to be talking about the somatic nervous system. And this system controls the voluntary body functions that we have control over. This means it pertains to the skeletal muscles and the skin muscles. These we have control over. And this system aids in sending sensory messages to the brain, which is very important to know. Question time. Which choice includes the parts of the central nervous system? I'll give you 5 seconds to answer. If you said brain and spinal cord, you're correct. So the first choice is peripheral nerves, which we now know is part of the peripheral nervous system, or the PNS, so that would be incorrect. Next, we have the lungs and the heart. This is a completely different system and not part of the nervous system at all. It's part of the respiratory and cardiovascular nervous systems. Then we have gray matter and white matter. This is unmyelinated and myelinated nerve tissue, which is what the brain and spinal cord is composed of. So while it is part of the system, it's not part of the central nervous system directly. Next question. Which choice shows the correct functions of the nervous system in the correct order? I'll give you 5 seconds to answer. If you said D, you are correct. Sensory input, integration, and motor output. So choice A says elimination, absorption, and secretion. These are functions of the digestive nervous system, which is, again, a completely different system. Then we have motor output, sensory input, integration. Again, these are the right functions, but in the wrong order. So that would be our potentially answer. So then we have secretion, elimination, absorption. Again, wrong body system. So the correct order is sensory input, integration, motor output. Sensory input, information is sent. Integration, information is processed. Motor output, response is produced. Now we have which choice correctly shows the function of the ANS. I'll give you 5 seconds to answer. Okay, if you said C, you are correct. Controlling involuntary functions. So A says gas exchange. This is the function of the respiratory system, which focuses on the O2, CO2, oxygen, carbon dioxide exchange, which is, again, a completely different body system. Next, we have sending signals to the brain. This is a pretty broad part of the nervous system as a whole. It doesn't pertain to specifically the ANS. And then D says controlling voluntary functions. This is a function of the somatic nervous system. So the correct answer would be controlling involuntary functions, which is an action that we don't have control over, such as digestion, breathing, things like that. Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned for the next video.